We all wear a mask when facing others, no matter how intelligent or foolish we may be. Apparently, intelligence seems to be the first choice for people. But if we look closer, history and experience tell a different story. Often it's not intelligence that wins approval, but the careful art of hiding it. Sometimes appearing too smart can actually isolate you. Arthur Schopenhauer captured this truth perfectly when he said, "To be well liked, one must wear the skin of the simplest of animals." Most of us have felt this at some point in our lives. In schools, in offices, in social circles, the most talented individuals, the ones with original, thoughtful ideas, are often ignored, sidelined, or even resented. It's as if, just like Nietzsche warned, intelligence is a double-edged sword. It sharpens your understanding, but dulls your joy. But why? Why does this disturbing pattern exist? Why is it that society struggles to accept the truly intelligent? Why is it often better, safer even, to play dumb just to fit in? That's what I'll be exploring in this video, through the eyes of the mustached man himself, Friedrich Nietzsche. Sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. Knowledge sometimes is not a blessing, it's a burden. It torments the thinker because it tears apart the warm myths we cling to just to make life bearable. Every truth uncovered pushes the thinker further away from the safety of the herd and closer to an abyss of doubt. Perhaps the sweetest life is the one lived without much thought, because a sharp mind doesn't offer comfort. It forces its owner to confront the universe's cold indifference, the fragility of morality, and the emptiness beneath tradition. Nietzsche saw this clearly. According to him, art, faith, and myth exist not just to inspire, they exist to shield us from dying of the truth. A truly wise person bears a heavy burden, holding truths that others are all too eager to trade for comforting lies. People instinctively move toward spaces where they can feel this warmth, toward environments where they don't feel small, outmatched, or challenged. This is why many people surround themselves with those less capable. It's easier. The dull and ignorant win acceptance not despite their simplicity, but because of it. They're non-threatening. They let others feel clever without actually having to be clever. Popularity doesn't follow brilliance. It follows familiarity, comfort, and emotional ease. And so, intelligence becomes a kind of exile. It isolates, it unsettles, it draws resentment. The intelligent are forced to walk a lonelier path because society doesn't know what to do with them. In Nietzsche's eyes, brilliance comes with a price: solitude. This is what I will discuss now. This is why a high degree of intellect tends to make a man unsocial. The thinker and the crowd are uneasy strangers. Brilliant minds often find little common ground with ordinary souls. As Schopenhauer noted, a genius quickly realizes he needs very little from others, because the richer his inner world becomes, the less he craves external company. In everyday life, this means that the highly intelligent tend to withdraw. They find small talk tiresome, surface-level company unbearable, and social rituals meaningless. Nietzsche captured the same truth when he wrote of the individual who must constantly struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe. The price of a truly independent mind is often ceaseless loneliness. But this solitude isn't just physical, it's psychological. Once you see the world clearly, the laughter of the crowd begins to sound distant, like an echo from another world. Ordinary people, full of easy answers and shared illusions, chase comfort and consensus. But the intelligent soul feels out of sync, like a violin string vibrating in a different key. Every conversation feels shallow, every celebration somehow hollow. He hears their jokes and small talk, but inside, he's drifting, lost in thoughts, too heavy for casual company. As Nietzsche said, solitude is brutal, but company may be worse. In solitude, you face your own doubts and demons. In company, you're consumed by the tribe. Yet solitude isn't a sanctuary either. The mind, once turned inward, becomes a battlefield. The same intelligence that isolates also interrogates. The scholar retreats to his quiet tower for peace, but there he must face the full force of his own thoughts. This is the quiet curse of high intelligence. Either endure the absence of connection, or be surrounded by the wrong kind of connection. And either way, that same gnawing feeling remains, the sense that you don't truly belong anywhere. It feels like a rebel against the whole society. One broad term, which I'm discussing now in the next chapter. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often, and sometimes frightened. To think independently is to rebel against the herd. Anyone with true understanding knows that going along with the masses often means betraying your own soul. This battle against the tribe is not brief. It's exhausting, relentless, and deeply personal. One must learn to endure the scorn of those who can't grasp their thoughts and the condescending pity of those who fear them. Nietzsche understood, to own your mind is often to choose alienation over comfort. For the intelligent, even a single belief or honest opinion can become an act of self-imposed exile. New ideas rarely sit well with widely accepted beliefs, which forces the thinker to make a choice, stay silent, or face confrontation. The intelligent face a special kind of misunderstanding. Their discernment is mistaken for arrogance. Simply by expressing their thoughts, they risk being seen as condescending. Intelligence, even when humbly carried, is often received as a quiet insult, a subtle reminder to others of their own limitations. And so it breeds resentment. Society instinctively gravitates toward those who don't disturb its fragile sense of equality. Just as physical beauty can stir envy, intellectual brilliance can provoke discomfort. That's why the dull and unremarkable are often embraced. They threaten no one. They reassure. They allow others to feel smart, capable, and in control. Meanwhile, the truly gifted are kept at arm's length. So many intelligent people learn to hide their abilities. They play dumb, avoid difficult conversations, downplay their knowledge, just to make it through the day without friction. Ironically, those who speak with the loudest confidence but say the least are often welcomed and praised, while the quiet thinkers are overlooked or quietly resented. At the root of much of this tension lies a darker force: envy. People rarely admit it outright. Instead, they wrap it in moral judgment, gossip, or passive-aggressive jabs. The confident intellectual is dismissed as arrogant, their success attributed to luck or privilege. They're pushed to the margins not because they're wrong, but because they don't blend in. As Schopenhauer noted, insults work as a great equalizer. They pull disputes down to a level where everyone feels they can compete. Nietzsche's concept of the pathos of distance captures this tension well. Intelligence naturally creates distance between the few and the many. And while the noble few accept that distance with grace, the masses tend to respond with bitterness and hostility. Unable to face their own inadequacies, they lash out, not with reason, but with ridicule. Nowhere is this clearer than in competitive environments. The more someone excels, the more others seem to quietly conspire, not with merit, but with whispers, exclusions, and slander to bring them back down. Their goal isn't justice. It's to soothe their own bruised pride by humbling the exceptional. People often think intellectuals are arrogant, but it's actually not very true. There is another reason which explains this a lot, which I am going to explore now. Pain and suffering are always inevitable for a large intelligence and a deep heart. The really great men must, I think, have great sadness on earth. To see the world clearly is to see not just its beauty, but also its cruelty. Dostoevsky, who in many ways stood as a philosophical sibling to Nietzsche, understood that intelligence often comes paired with deep emotional sensitivity. A person with sharp perception doesn't just feel their own pain, they feel the pain of others, often too deeply. This turns the world into a minefield of sorrow. Every street reveals broken lives. Every politician's smile hides a lie. Every seemingly cheerful face carries unspoken burdens. When you think deeply, you can't escape the suffering that surrounds you. The clever mind sees what others prefer to ignore. The quiet violence of poverty, the slow decay of ideals, the subtle betrayals in everyday life. Each realization cuts deeper than the last. You understand how kindness is sometimes born of desperation, how love can decay into control, how dreams quietly suffocate in the name of stability. Nietzsche famously wrote, "To live is to suffer, but the thinker suffers more because he sees why we suffer." This awareness itself becomes a burden. Happiness, when you understand the world, starts to look like something fragile and artificial, an illusion built on layers of denial. And this too becomes a prison. The deeper your empathy, the deeper your pain. Schopenhauer believed that compassion arises from a profound understanding of the shared will, the fundamental suffering that unites all beings. Nietzsche too saw that the noble soul suffers because it refuses to look away. In this way, intelligence and sorrow become inseparable. The thinker mourns not only for his own isolation, but for the condition of humanity. He sees the rot beneath the surface, the tragedy in the ordinary. He becomes, in a sense, a silent martyr, consumed by what he knows, hollowed out by truths others refuse to face. Sometimes, such a person may long for the bliss of ignorance, for the simple, unbothered life of those who never question, because at least they sleep peacefully. This misery is fueled by overthinking, which ruins lives more than you can imagine, which I am going to discuss now. Every deep thinker is more afraid of being understood than of being misunderstood. Deep thinking breeds a kind of paranoia about authenticity, about motive, about meaning. Nietzsche understood that the greatest fear of the thinker is not being misunderstood, but being understood. Because true understanding leaves no shelter. Once someone truly sees you, every flaw, every contradiction, every wound is exposed. The sensitive soul can already hear the judgment in the eyes of others, knowing how quickly the masses devour anyone who dares to stand apart. As the intelligent person unravels their own thoughts, they begin to distrust the very ground they stand on. Certainty becomes uncomfortable. Every idea seems solid until it collapses under scrutiny. The thinker tries to separate illusion from truth, but suspicion clings to everything. Even good things lose their luster when analyzed too closely. A sunrise, a warm embrace, a moment of joy. What if it's not real? What if it's just a trick of the mind? Nietzsche warned that in this reflective abyss, the abyss gazes back. And when it does, the thinker sees meaninglessness staring straight through them. It makes me think of Rustin Colt from True Detective Season 1. Like him, the mindset creates a war inside. Satisfaction arrives, but it doesn't stay. The deeper you think, the more despair you risk uncovering. In the quiet, you hear the endless hum of your own mind, demanding answers for every feeling, every hope, every breath. It is, as Arthur Schopenhauer wrote, which can be paraphrased as, "The curse of the genius is that while others admire him, he cannot help but see them as small, shallow beings. He must hide his contempt just as they hide their resentment. And so, he lives in isolation, surrounded by people who seem human only from a distance, but up close reveal themselves as little more than parrots and monkeys.